Hello, I'm Jimbo and welcome to the channel. For those of you that are retired out there, did you, when you were working, have a temper, a little bit of a temper, a medium amount, or a pretty hot temper? I know when I was growing up, it was pointed out to me about junior high age, and I was starting to notice it myself as well, but I was developing a pretty hot temper. I tried to curb that as I was growing up and through high school by joking around a lot, kind of suppressing it, trying not to have things bother me too much, but sometimes it's, in a way, it's almost who we are. It doesn't mean it can't change or be adjusted, but I was aware of it. Now going through college, I had a 2-year degree in electronics, and when I was working in Sioux Falls, I realized I couldn't make enough money to leave the town if I wanted. That's what prompted me to go into the military. I'd actually sworn off the military all through high school. I had a real good friend in high school that I think he was born saluting and clicking his heels. Yep, that's you, Tim.
Sir, yes,
And he went on and made a great career and retired as an Air Force officer. Me and another buddy in that same group of friends, he was in a similar boat as what I was. And so we, within probably 2 or 3 weeks of each other, we enlisted in the Air Force. So that was a whole new thing for me. I grew up in a town about a square mile, not really exposed to much of anything. The college degree I got was in a town of 800, and there was 800 in the small college. And so the population doubled during the school year. So I remember going through and trying to develop during those days in college, and also having a pretty good group of friends. We chuck and jive quite a bit, you know, just having fun. I don't really remember a whole lot of my temper then. And then I went on to my working career, worked at a couple different places. As I got out of the Air Force active duty, for those of you veterans out there, it's called Palace Chase. Went as far as Omaha, Nebraska, and I was in the Air Force about a little over 2 years and 4 months. Doubled my commitment and got in the Sioux City, Iowa Air National Guard as a traditional, or what they call a part-timer. I was there for, like I said, 18 months, and then went up to Sioux Falls. They had the same type of fighter unit there, same type of airplane. So I was there for about 3.5 years before I got on full-time in May of 1999. So looking back, I'm just kind of going off the cuff here. I don't remember a lot of issues with having a temper, but I knew that I had suppressed a bunch of it up until that time, or throughout that time actually. When I started working full-time in the Air Guard, and then you're with the same group of people for a prolonged period of time, you get to know each other pretty well. And we all have things that bother other people. That's no different anywhere. And then sometimes we don't realize it, but there's things about us that bother them. And so I was going through developing, not really developing, but learning more about what made me angry, what made me just a little frustrated, and what really made me hot. Going through that problem of my life made me realize that it really was in there, and it was in there pretty deep. Having different frustrating situations, especially after I became a supervisor, and you're trying to lead people, you're not sure if you're doing it right. You obviously make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. I made horrible mistakes as a supervisor, guaranteed. But there were times where it got to where my temper just felt like it was coming up. It wasn't exactly like acid reflux, even though, like on the last video I said, I do have stomach issues, and stress can raise that discomfort level. But it wasn't really necessarily that. It was more up here of just being extremely frustrated on whatever. We can all think of things that get us frustrated, angry, or like I said, really hot. So you surf through those situations and you try to learn from them. And sometimes your coworkers will help you, sometimes supervisors. If you have a good supervisor, I had some really good supervisors. Most of them were colonels at the time. And they were able to help me look at myself a little bit. And I mentioned that in the last video too, with one colonel asking me to hang my ego at the door. That's a clue. That's a big clue. So we talked about that stuff throughout the years that I've known him. Moving forward from that, I don't need to get into any more detail on that. I could write a book on it just about. But moving forward to retirement time. There's a guy that worked in our building. I remember talking to him after he retired. But the office that he had, I noticed when he visited the building just once in a while, he wouldn't go into the office. And it happened to be the office I was occupying. So I'm sitting there wondering, is it me? What's the deal? So one day I actually brought it up to him. And he said, no, Jimbo, he says, there's a lot of good times in the office. There were some tough times in the office. And he said, it basically took me 2 years to be able to walk into that office again. And I had been through some pretty tough times through my supervisory period, and I understood what he was talking about, but I thought that I had a way big temper compared to him, but I also didn't have trouble going into where I used to work as well. So my mind is sorting through all this stuff. It's just kind of a whirlwind trying to figure things out. Fast forward another couple years into my retirement. It's been 5.5 now. So let's just say about 4.5 years into my retirement, I know that I'm trying to deal with these things. My wife knows I'm trying to deal with these things. She's known from the beginning. Of course, there's been times where I haven't treated her very well, and there's times where I've been frustrated with her. Normal marriage stuff, right? But I'm trying to figure out, is it worse with me because of what I felt I was as a child, as a young man, growing up, going into the military, and then having to lead in the military? Did it make it worse? Did it accentuate the inner being that I had that really wouldn't tolerate frustration all that well? And I'm using the word frustration loosely. But I do have a lot of different levels of frustration. So I've got some really good friends. I mentioned it also during the soft starts in the morning video when I was in the garage that first morning. With that group of guys, I have spent a lot of time with them. We're pretty tight. There's about 7 or 8 of us. Some of us can get together more often than others. But campfire talks are amazing. You're sitting with your coffee in the morning, just lightly visiting with things. Go out for horseback rides during the day, do whatever, cook meals, settle down in the evening around the campfire, maybe have a cigar, maybe a drink in your hand. Things are calm, basically, is my point. You're out in the middle of the Black Hills, just enjoying life. Decompressing, actually, and recharging my batteries. That's how I did that when I was working. That week really made a big difference for me. But it was also a lot of time for self-reflection, because when I'm talking about my temper and the different levels, not many people know it better than that group of guys. And that's what true friends are. That's the meaning of the word pals. Some of you know the movie I'm talking about. But they're my pals. And we've helped each other. I've looked to them for help more so than what they know, and that's more so with observing them, seeing how they react to situations and discussions, sometimes even political discussions, which I'm somewhat tired of, but I have trouble keeping my mouth shut when somebody expresses their opinion. And I'm really trying to get over that. And that's not just political, that's just anything. When I'm with some of these guys, I will start a conversation by asking a question or talking about a situation. And my guess is they can probably figure out that I'm trying to figure something out, not necessarily about the subject, but about myself. When you have really close friends like that, and we've had disagreements before, and a couple of them have been just fairly heated, you might say, but very few times, for something like that. But it's good having friends that are very forgiving, and you yourself have to be very forgiving as well. I take a little longer, I think, just because of my base personality. I hope I don't hang on to things too awful long, but grudges can be there with anybody. So that's part of self-reflection, self-examination, to have ourselves not do that. Now, I don't know if I'm going to ever reach the finish line on that, but I'm certainly going to try. And for you veterans out there, there are resources out there. Full disclosure, I've had about 3 sessions at the VA now in Sioux Falls, South Dakota here. They're just the very preliminary first 6 visits, just trying to figure out some of these things. There are good people there that are there to help you no matter what level you're at in your brain or your behavior. I consider my issues that I'm talking about fairly minor, but yet they're not going away very fast. And I think my wife was happy that I did tell her that I was going to start talking to somebody about some of this stuff. And the gal that I'm talking to is very patient, very good. She's asking me some general questions and some pointed questions. She's giving me some exercises to do. So when something happens in my brain, I have some exercises I need to do and write some stuff down so that we can talk about it next time we get together. So I am not ashamed to say that, yeah, I'm seeing somebody at the VA, and it only came on about 3 weeks ago. My wife and a lot of friends probably wish I'd have done it 3 or 30 years ago. You never know. But yeah, it's just one of those things that takes a little guts to do. You know, sometimes being male or masculine, sometimes it just seems like we don't want to help, don't want to ask for help, let alone directions. Got it? Some of those old cliches, not cliches. But there's help out there. So anybody that is dealing with the transition, whether it's veteran, whether it's just strictly retiring, I hope I didn't get way off course here, because it does deal with transitioning from retiring, basically coming off a busy schedule, going into a not so busy schedule. You've got the happiness of your time is your time, but I know that there's times where, let's just say, for example, I'm driving along, especially if I'm alone, and I start thinking about something in my past, that I'm embarrassed about or just don't like, and I'm driving along and I just kind of get that shiver. I don't know if you guys have ever felt that at all or not, but yeah, that bothers me. I don't want to have those thoughts anymore. Now, I don't know if they can ever go away 100%, but I believe that with getting a little bit of help, just talking, even if it's just friends, family, professionals, the VA, there are a lot of counseling agencies out there. There's a lot of help. So don't think that your stuff is too minor to even get just a little bit of help. Make some good progress, and when you feel good, you don't have to keep going forever. I don't think I will be, but I'm getting some tools to help me deal with some of my imperfections. We aren't going to get them all, honey, I'll tell you that. But we are who we are to a point, but I believe that there is an exchange of being willing to look at ourselves, look at other people less, for sure, and not being as judgmental, or not being judgmental at all would be the goal. It can be hard for us. We're humans. You know, it's a fallen world, and we are all just going to do the best that we can. But the point is being there for each other. If you're retired, and I'll do another segment later on friends. Do you have friends that you can do things with? Or were you able to retire young enough that most of your friend base is still working, so they're not available during the week, so you're filling your time then? But you might feel like you're fighting for some time with some of your friends or people to hang out with. So I don't know, I kind of went all over the place on this one. It was a very spur of the moment thing to decide to film this one here. So go ahead and think about those things yourself. And also, this is not just to get comments or likes or any of this kind of stuff. go ahead and put some things in the comments by hearing me rambling. If you're hearing or seeing something, let me know. Let me know. I'm truly interested. I am beyond the just strictly self-help, like I said, because I'm going to see somebody in the VA. But I'm open to criticism as well. But anyway, I'm just going to call it at that. Sorry if I rambled too much, but we'll see you around next time.